Welcome back to the Hawkins Report, a Stranger Things podcast by LSG Media. I'm your host, Dean.
I'm Jessica.
And on this week's episode, we're talking Chapter 8, The Upside Down. I'm going to say the cheesy thing, Jessica, that everybody says when they're moving on to something else. They're going to be like, it's bittersweet. You know, like, it's bittersweet because, like, I really, like, want this promotion, but I don't want to leave this department because I love you guys and you're all so fabulous. So it's really bittersweet. That's what they all say.
I don't know why that's your voice today, but it is really
It's a different
weird.
voice. The other one was a Valley Girl. I don't know what that is. You can call it what you want. I all know what you're all thinking, but it's fine. You can say it if you want. Yeah, man, bittersweet. It is because the show is over. And
For now.
Yeah, I know, but you know, it was perfect. And I don't know if it can get better.
You can't capture magic like this twice.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I'm a little skeptical about season 2, but
I'm not. I think it's going to be good. Just not this good.
yeah, I guess that's fair. I you know, much like our youth, it is over so quickly. You know, 1983. Dungeons and Dragons, even though I was just reading the Dungeon Master's Guide like yesterday.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, man, it was fleeting but wonderful and magical, and it was transportive. I don't know if that's a word.
I don't know.
I think it's called transporter. I don't know, but I liked it. It was fucking awesome, and it made me smile, and it made me have tears streaming down my face at times because I am a softie. What are you going to do? But it was awesome. So, Jessica.
Yes.
It's all over.
I know.
You know, but we got an episode to talk about. There's plenty to talk about here. That we have a very intense, a very dramatic few moments towards the end. Then we have a very, what I think is lengthy, and I don't know if it's good or bad ending. We're going to talk about that post they get Will back. Mm-hmm. But boy, I feel like, to be honest, not a lot of things happened. It was sort of just the wrap of the season. We ended it. Things that we expected happened, and I'm sure that we have to. So
I'm not sure how you can say not a lot happened because I feel like a lot happened.
Yeah, I mean they in other words, they did everything. Yeah, the very end. I'm talking about the episode proper is, you know, they get captured, they get told where Elle is. Elle does her thing, everything is over, and then they have all this like setup shit at the end. I don't mean that in a bad way. I
totally disagree with you.
Okay. You think I'm being critical, but I'm not.
No, but I think a ton of stuff happened.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about it.
We had our final confrontation with this monster and with the people from Hawkins' lab, and all of our characters were doing stuff.
Right.
Right.
Doing all the things I think that we expected them to do. But I guess what I'm saying is it was a good wrap-up on all the shit that went down.
Reasonable.
Yeah. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Maybe I should reword it into saying not a lot happened that I didn't expect to happen, which was all the confrontations we expected. And I guess that's okay because you can't really spring surprises on people in the final episode.
I still found it very exciting despite the fact that we all, I think, knew how it was going to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was very exciting. It was a very good episode, for sure. You need to relax. I think you think I'm coming at this to criticize it, and you're already arguing with me.
This hour of television is very dear to my heart.
Jesus Christ. Relax, woman. Take it down a notch. What are you drinking? Better be water.
It's not.
Jesus Christ. I'm calling the fucking program. We're getting you in a program. We're getting you in a fucking program. You're not even going to be here for season 2. You're going to be in a program someplace like Peaceful Meadows. It'll be like a descriptor of something and then like some sort of land, like some sort of like natural land thing like meadows or mountains or hills or grasslands, tranquil gardens, something like that.
Sounds about right.
I'm going to put you in one of those. Yeah, it's a good wrap. That's all I'm saying. Relax, will you? Don't be so angry. Why don't you tell me about your overall thoughts? I've just been blabbering my ass off here, so why don't you take over and let me have a sip of water?
I loved this episode of television. I thought it was exciting to watch. I was on the edge of my seat. I cried approximately 4 times. And then I cried 4 more times the second time I watched the episode. I thought it was so emotional. I love these characters. I love them. I care about them so much, like as if they were real people. And I watch shows and I watch movies that I like a lot, but this to me, the way I feel is the way I feel when I'm reading a book and it's over and I miss the characters. I don't feel that way when I watch TV a lot. I feel that way more when I read. And that's how this show made me feel. like, I love these people. I felt like they were so developed. I miss them in my life already. Already.
Cool. Yeah, the characters were very much a success in this program. They did a lot of things that were unconventional, specifically with Nancy and Steve. I liked this. I think that Nancy's character was handled so well
Agreed.
in her relationships to Jonathan and Steve. And I think that they were so realistically done. And I think that's what is probably the best part about this. Not that specific relationship, but like you said, the relationships in general. The kids are great. They're so endearing. You believe them. They're very emotional about all the stuff going on, rightfully so. And it's hard not to be pulled into that emotional gravity when it starts. And, just let yourself go, feel the program, and enjoy it. So this is what we do, guys. If this is your first time joining us for the last episode, we're going to spoil it, obviously. We're going to go with these opening thoughts. We're going to just sort of free form as we're doing right now. Then we will explicate our way through the episode proper. I don't think I'm using proper correctly there, but I like to do it anyway.
Maybe.
And then we're going to get to some listener comments. This week we're going to go through all of them, I think, as it relates to your final thoughts on the season, which is what we will do at the end of our listener comments, which is our own final thoughts on this episode and the season as a whole. Although we're kind of doing that now, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, you guys have been awesome. We want to thank you for joining us and listening for as much as you have. The support for this podcast has been incredible. It has been our most successful podcast in terms of reviews on iTunes. We're already closing in on 60, and we only have 8 episodes. That is, for us, incredible. And we've been consistently in the top 50 of iTunes in film and television, which, let me tell you, is a tough nut to crack. So I just want to quickly say thank you to everyone who is downloading us and rating and reviewing us. And thank you to everyone who joins us in our chat. This is being recorded live on Mixlr, which is mixlr.com/LSG-media. That's mixlr.com/LSG-media, where we broadcast live. We have people in a chat room. We interact and respond to them on the fly, as I'm sure you're familiar with, that being just a thing out there in the internet. So it's awesome, and I just want to say thanks, guys. It's been really cool. We know that each podcast that we launch, we get better at figuring out how to launch it and how to capitalize on getting the reviews that we want and need to continue to gain exposure and to continue to grow, because we have a bunch of other shows, but we'll talk about that at the end. So, Jessica, do you have anything else you want to say about your overall thoughts on this particular episode, Chapter 8, The Upside Down? What do you got?
I think I said what I need to say about this episode and the show, and I'm ready to jump in and take it scene by scene, and I have plenty to say about basically everything when we get there.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to your perspective. Oddly enough, I only have 5 pages of notes for this, which, considering I write most of the things that happen so we can, in fact, explicate our way through it, I'm pretty impressed at how light my notes are for this. And as I'm flipping through them, I have 2 pages of notes and 3 blank pages, so my printer has decided to piss me off today. So I'm going to open up this document on the computer and go old school virtual style and no.
Which I theorize may happen because we ended with Will in the Upside Down, and I had the feeling that opening on that this would be the time where we didn't do what we've been doing all season. It makes sense, I think. It didn't bother me. I liked it.
Were you nervous?
For Will?
No, for the fact that they opened differently. Were you like, uh-oh, they're breaking the magic?
No, I kind of liked it. I liked for the last episode they didn't. I liked that they left the Will cliffhanger there, because I feel like that's the cliffhanger you can leave till the end of the episode, because it's basically our main goal the whole season. You can't just start with it and resolve it.
Where do we open? The Hawkins lab, right?
We do.
In an interrogation chamber?
Joyce and Hopper have been trapped.
Yeah. And Joyce is screaming, "Let me out of here! Let me out!"
She's handcuffed.
They start questioning her about her shopping bag at Nordstrom. Oh, shit.
No, that's a different time that she was handcuffed in an interrogation room, Dean.
That's a different woman altogether. She's not that woman anymore.
Look the same.
Anyway.
Winona forever.
Joyce is locked up. "Let me out," she's screaming. And then, of course, Brenner enters the room and starts to ask about her son. The thing I like about this scene is we see a difference between how Joyce responds to Brenner and how Karen responds to Brenner. Karen Wheeler, of course, Mike's mom, if you forgot.
Yes.
Very different. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different for Joyce than Karen. Karen's son has not been taken. She is a little bit different in terms of just her lifestyle in general. So you would think that she may capitulate a little more to authority, where Joyce just does not. Not to mention, Joyce has higher stakes in this game at this point, especially since Will has been gone for a while. But I like how Brenner does the old, I'm going to try to appeal to this woman's care for her son.
And care for others.
And care for others by saying, this is the sixth person. There's been 6 people taken. It is predictable. It will take more sons and daughters. I want to save your son. It eats. He's threatening her, but also appealing to her sensibilities in a sense, and it does not go well. It totally backfires.
Go to hell.
Go to hell, sir. You go to hell, which I loved. I like how I was wondering what Joyce was going to do here. I generally was not. I was a little shocked, to be honest with you, that she just said, F you, dude, instead of like, where's Will? Do you have him?
No, I wasn't. This to me is Joyce. Like, she knows these are bad people. She fucking gets it.
Right, and that's what I liked about it. It was a very hard stance by her that really cemented the character in my eyes as to what kind of woman she is. But she has been strong this whole time in her conviction, which is funny that I didn't know how she was going to go this route. But we move over to Hopper. He's getting it a little harder, isn't he? He's getting the old zip zap.
I know, poor Hopper. Torture, basically.
Getting a little zip zap. Bzz. He's barfing and shit.
Ooh, I hate this stuff. I can't watch this. It always makes me uncomfortable.
You messed up big time, he says. You killed Benny, faked the little kid's death. Hopper tells them, and he gave all the information to his friend at the Times. That old I've been captured by bad guys hat.
That's what everybody says. Nobody actually has a friend at the Times.
I just want you to know, if I die, there's going to be an envelope. It's going to go to 6 major news stations, and this is going to be blown out of the water. I'm going to expose you guys. You're going down, and every other trope.
Oh my God. Hey, I like that he says it, though, because I feel like that's Hopper. He's like, I don't fucking care. I'm going to expose you, even though deep down he knows he's actually not.
Right. I think he was bluffing.
I 100% think he was bluffing.
I just think he was like, fuck, what do I do now? I'm not sure how this plays out, especially when they hint at the fact that they're going to murder him. I mean, I got the impression that they were saying he's just a junkie that took one too many.
Yes, they were. They were
going to definitely kill this guy.
Just like they faked Benny's death, they were going to fake Hopper's, which I feel like somebody in the chat was talking about this. Maybe Hunter, a few episodes ago, they were talking about the first episode where Hopper like wakes up and he was saying, oh, I thought they were just going to make it look like he OD'd. And that's actually what they plan to do this time around. You only get so many chances with the Hawkins lab before they fake your death.
In the chat, Anthony NYJ is saying Joyce's response is the first time anyone calls Brenner on his shit, which is a great point.
Also, his name is just Anthony J. You added an extra NY in there for no reason.
Sorry to Anthony J. That's a great point. I didn't even consider that. Brenner has been doing his thing without any repercussions and without any pushback. And Joyce is the first person who did in that we've seen. So that's good stuff. Good catch by Anthony NYJ. So I have this emboldened in my notes. The interrogators tell him he is a junkie, too many pills this time. They're going to murder Hopper.
Oh, yeah.
This is very important because there is some thoughts on the internet I've seen about him making this deal to sell Elle up the river and lead them right to the kids.
Right.
And I think we need to talk about the deal now because he makes the deal now and then we cut over.
Not quite.
Do you want to wait until he's walking in the hallway with Nancy? I mean, with Joyce?
We'll
come back to it. It's fine.
Or we can just do that whole scene now and then go back to the kids or whatever.
No, we don't want to start doing that now. We haven't done that in this podcast yet. No reason to fucking get all cute with our flip-flops and scene cuts.
Okay, then.
But he does say he's going to make a deal, and this is all going to be forgotten about. So we move over to the kids in the gymnasium. Mike realizes that Nancy and Jonathan are gone. Dustin suggests that they're likely face-sucking one another.
Typical. Typical Dustin.
Typical Dustin. Dustin's like, well, if it was me, that's what I'd be doing with my baby teeth. I'd be sucking that face. So anyway, Elle knows where they went. When asked, she just says Demogorgon.
Yeah, I like that Elle is like, no. Like, she knows something's up. Mike knows something's up.
Right. Jonathan and Nancy get to his place. They break out their trunk of goodies. This was a shot that lingered with me that I just found memorable. And it is a profile shot of them in the trunk. There is this ominous, soft yellow light behind them, and it's nighttime. And this is such a monster hunting, open the trunk and get your vampire slaying tools together, your stake and your holy water. I love this. I love this quick scene. It got me prepared. They break out their trunk. They get into the house.
Set some shit up.
Yep. I thought this was an homage to the Predator, kind of, which is these people are fighting this creature that they just can't defeat, so they start setting up traps for it. And it reminded me of that a lot. I like this. I like them. I like Jonathan making his own version of Lucille and prepping the bear trap and getting ready to go to battle.
Yeah, I like that they've got this plan set in their mind and they're sticking to it. And it's obviously very intricate and very thought out. It's not just we're going to go out and cut our hands and make the monster come to us and hope for the best. Like, they have a serious plan. Right. And I like that.
Yeah, I concur. Back to the lab, Brennan and Hopper are having their discussion. He gives him a cigarette. Hop takes a nice deep drag. You know, he's being contemplative here. And then he just says, you got to give me your word. And, of course, he makes this deal.
Yeah.
So Hopper and Joyce are together. They'll let them both go. Hopper tells Joyce that they came to an agreement. Secrecy is part of the deal. She wants Will back. Joyce and Hopper head into the upside-down chamber. So I'll pause here. But, yeah, this deal I think is important to talk about.
I agree.
What do you think about Hopper's decision here, Jessica?
Honestly, I thought that he did not give them the correct information. And I was very surprised that he did.
So do you still think he didn't or that they were lucky?
No, I think that he gave them the right information. I think he sold her out.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised by that because I did not expect it. Even when he said he would tell them, I was like, no way. He's going to totally send them in the wrong direction. There's absolutely no way he would do something like this.
Right.
And I was very surprised that he did.
You have to remember this thing about Hopper, and that's that his loyalty is to these kids and to Joyce. And I'm not saying he's a monster in the way he handled Elle at all, because I think he knows, holy shit, this girl Elle is some kind of fucking crazy wizard creature. She's not going to live happily ever after out here and get adopted. Not now that all this information is out there. We're never going to be able to hide her. Who knows what could happen if she gets mad at these kids? She might blow all their heads off. We know she's capable. And I think Hopper, when not only that, but when facing his own mortality, like, we're going to OD you to death right now, dude, and you can't stop us. Dude, he doesn't have a lot of choices here. I think him making this move kind of makes sense. What doesn't make sense is him thinking that he can trust these guys to fulfill their end of the bargain. That's the only thing I was a little skeptical on.
Right.
Does he really think that these guys are going to, based on all their actions to date, the fact that they killed Benny, faked this kid's body, does he really think at this point that they're going to fulfill their end of the bargain? And that was maybe just a pill he had to forcibly swallow in the hope that, because his choices are die or take the deal. Die or come up with a smart plan that buys you time. So he has little choice here. What's he going to do to get out of this? He's handcuffed. He's getting shocked. There's no way he's escaping. He's not going to club these guys on the head like he's been doing the whole series. And I could see him saying, listen, I'm going to get you the girl because obviously that's what you want more than anything. But you got to leave these kids alone. And when they took it, he thought, great, I get to live. Elle is some sort of anomaly that is not going to, go to play school with these kids. Not play school, but you know what I'm saying. Go to school with these kids. She can't exist outside of some sort of controlled setting with people who kind of understand how to deal with her. So that makes it really hard on him. And he wants to get Will back. That's what he fucking wants. And guess what he can't do when he's dead? Get Will back. Or if he just rots in this fucking interrogation chamber forever. He can't help Joyce anymore. And I think his primary objective is to help a kid because he couldn't help his own in the end.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that his motivations are not necessarily entirely unselfish. I think that in a way he feels like if he can save this kid, that's the thing he has to do because he couldn't save his daughter.
I think so too.
I think it all kind of comes back to that for him. And I think if he didn't have a dead daughter, then maybe he wouldn't have sold Elle out.
Right. I hate to make it a numbers game, but I feel like you die and these kids probably get scooped up anyway because you're not there to help them, Hopper. Or you live and maybe they catch one girl. Not to mention, Hopper could easily think, okay, this girl flipped over a van. She broke a kid's arm. Are these guys really going to be able to catch her? He might have thought, well, I'm going to give him the info to save my life and give me another crack at finding Will. And who knows, Elle might be able to withstand these people. So that's another consideration, too. He didn't have a lot of time to think about this when he's about to get overdosed and fucking die. So, I mean, I think Hopper's actions were realistic, and I don't think he was a bad moral actor in this instance. I think he did what he could do with what he had in that moment.
I feel like you're the person who like is always talking about like the needs of the many versus the needs of the few.
Right.
Like, but isn't that exactly what happened here? He was like, okay, I can try and save everybody, or I can just sell out Elle, so I know I can save Will.
I do talk about that. I think if you want to get into that, what I'm saying is that I think that I don't necessarily believe in the philosophy of the greater good, because that means that majority makes good, morally speaking, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because I don't think if 70% of people think that slavery is good and there are slaves, that doesn't mean that they are morally just, is my point about saying, like, I don't necessarily believe in the greater good. I think that that's a slippery slope, morally speaking. I think I think this is a little more complex and nuanced than simply talking about the greater good. I think he thought to himself, I'm probably going to die right here, and he did what most people would do. He tried to make a deal to fulfill what he was trying to do, and that there's going to be a little bit of collateral damage. Because the alternative doesn't necessarily mean that Elle doesn't get caught and everyone else get caught. There's no guarantees in the deal he makes other than he's getting a chance. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
he's not pulling a lever and killing one kid to save 10. There's no guarantees here.
Yeah, but he also didn't have to give them the correct information. They let him go before they even checked to see if what he was saying was the truth.
Yeah, that's a good point. But did you think he knew they were going to let him go before they knew? Right? So say they have you in this cell and he gives up the info, and then they say, okay, you sit tight. We're going to check out that info. Like, he didn't know they were going to. He was probably like, holy shit, they're not even going to verify this.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? He didn't have that information ahead of time. So
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. There's a lot of maybes. But
I was just surprised that he gave the correct information and didn't try to, I don't know.
Yeah. I think once the agents got to the school and saw all the pudding out, that they had confirmed that they got correct information. They knew at that moment.
Yeah, but he was already in the Upside Down.
No, I know. But I'm just saying. Yeah, it's, but say you give them the wrong information, and Hopper doesn't know that they're not going to say, you sit tight, we're going to send an agent down there. The agent radios back. He's a fucking liar. They go, you're dead. No more deals. I mean, it's a risky move for Hopper not to give the right information, because he didn't know they weren't going to verify it, I guess, is what I'm saying. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that whole thing. So Joyce and Hopper head into, do you want to say anything else? I'm sorry. Or should we go?
No.
Okay. So Joyce and Hopper head into the upside down chamber. Brenner loads up his troops to go find Elle. Brenner's confident that Hop and Joyce will not find the boy. That's another thing, is that their perspective on the deal is that they just want to go there and find Will, and he's going to give us the intel. Fucking let him go. He's going to die in the upside down. We don't care.
Will's already dead, probably, as far as they think.
Right. So Brenner at this point is like, this is win-win for us. So we don't care. Not to mention, our hands are clean. If we let this guy go into the upside down, we're not murdering a chief of police. Let him go. Fuck it. Let him go kill himself on a fool's errand. So from Brenner's perspective, this makes sense as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For him, he thinks that Hop's just going to die.
Right. I concur. So they enter the pulsating upside-down vagina passageway with their suits on.
Lord.
And then we get our opening credits.
And we do get this information here that they have to wear the suits because it's toxic. The environment is toxic. And Joyce is like, well, it's been down there for a week.
Right. Good point.
And I think that is important, because I think that is going to be a big thing for next season.
Yeah.
Like, Will's not really out of the woods.
Right. Yeah. You know? Yeah, there's some teasers we need to get to. So opening credits end, and we go right back to the upside down. Hopper and Joyce walk. Hopper's coaching Joyce through some panic by telling her to take some deep breaths. And we start a flashback about Hopper. Hopper's chasing his daughter, Sarah. She has trouble breathing. We return to Hopper and Joyce exploring the upside down. Do you want to talk a little bit about the flashbacks now? Not the ending flashback, but just the idea to introduce this at this point.
Sure.
What do you think?
Well, I'm okay with flashbacks.
I don't mean flashbacks in general. I just mean the way it was handled in this episode.
I appreciate it, because I think I wouldn't have liked it if we had ended the season without finding out what happened to his daughter.
Right. I agree with that.
And they had to give us the information some way. They made us wait till the last episode. And I feel like him having these flashes in the moment he's having them are appropriate because, like I said, in his mind, saving Will is akin to like him saving his daughter.
Absolutely.
Like, couldn't save her, so instead he's going to save Will.
Right.
It's interconnected for him.
Agreed. Do you think that the show could have layered in over the last few episodes flashbacks to get us here, or do you think dumping it now was a better choice given the circumstances?
I liked the dump.
Yeah, I'm
personally.
I think I do too, which surprised me because I thought to myself, I'm not going to like this, but it was so brief, and it served the purpose of telling us his backstory, and that's something I know. Listen, I know I have a reputation for shitting on flashbacks. One of the things I don't like about them is when they're trying to elicit an emotional response out of us versus telling us information about the plot or the characters. And I think that this was integral information to Hopper's internal struggle in what is, besides him being just a good person and friends with Joyce and caring about Will, there's a deeper motivation to him, which is his own, which is in his own mind. And I think that was well placed in this episode.
Right, I agree.
So Jonathan and Nancy go back over the plan. They cut their hands to draw the creature in with blood. We go back to Mike at the gymnasium, and he does not like waiting around, does he? No.
No, he wants to do something.
He wants to do some shit. Lucas reminds him that the bad men are looking. Dustin and Lucas thinks they should just stick to the plan that Hopper laid out. Dustin tells Mike that Nancy will be okay and that she's a badass now.
Yeah, she is.
She is a badass now. She really is. And, of course, Dustin wants pudding.
Yeah, he knows that lunch lady's been hoarding that shit.
Yeah, what the fuck does she... What do you think she does? Do you think she puts a couple in her oversized purse on the way out?
Maybe.
She's like, fuck these little shits. Fuck these little pieces of shit. I'm taking this pudding home. I'm going to put it in my big, stupid purse, and I'm going to take it home in my hairnet in my shitty car, and I'm going to give it to my kids.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Does that seem a bit excessive?
No, it seems like who she is as a person.
It seems like who she is as a person. I guess. I don't know this lady. I should not be so mean to her. But stop holding out on the pudding.
Right.
Or maybe she just...
It's rude.
Maybe she just goes in the walk-in freezer and just tears into like 6-7 cans at a time and just stuffs them in her... Just fucking covered in pudding all over her fat face. You think so? That's possible.
It seems very reasonable, honestly.
I think so. Well...
I picture her as like, I don't know.
Wow, that was riveting.
Just a chunky, miserable human being.
Wow.
I actually picture it like nobody watches Survivor, but there was a lunch lady on Survivor once, lunch lady Denise, and she lied about getting fired from her job to get money from Mark Burnett, so she is a bitch.
That was
And
very
she
relevant.
looked like a lunch lady.
Let's go ahead and go down that rabbit hole for 20 minutes.
I was just telling a story.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get off of the lunch lady. Poor thing. Anyway, Jonathan and Nancy wait. Nancy wraps her hand. Jonathan tells Nancy to think of the lights as alarms.
Yes.
Nancy's hand lingers on Jonathan's. They do a little finger foo, which is cute.
And then the moment where he says, Nancy,
I'm about to tell you something, but Steve has shown up.
and she says, yeah, and then we get bang, 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 bang.
Steve is apologetic. He says that he messed things up.
He wants to talk to Jonathan.
He pushes his way in past Steve, and
Past
is
Nancy.
He is overwhelmed by the shit he sees. This kid does a great job in this scene.
I agree.
I think he was a great actor, and overall, I think he does a good job. And I thought he was especially good in this. His surprise at the things that he sees is awesome.
Yeah, I find him to be very, very realistic.
Yep, Joe Keery is his name.
And his responses to just and Deborah in the chat says Steve had her laughing. Like, me too. Like, in this high-stakes moment, it was just so crazy. But his reaction was so much what yours would be in the situation.
Sure.
He sees her hand is hurt. He's concerned. He pushes in. Nancy points a gun at him, and he's like,
Right.
whoa, wait.
Right.
What?
Right.
Like, it's
perfect.
It's exactly what I would say, I feel like, in that situation. Like, he freaks out, and
Right.
I like that he freaks out.
It's a tense situation. I like how this is a good tension building scene because you have Jonathan and Nancy waiting for this monster.
They got a plan.
Which is tense. And then Steve injects himself into the scene, and the tension goes way up. Mm-hmm. Because now you have somebody who doesn't know what's going on. Now he could potentially be a liability here, and it just starts. Nancy puts the gun on him. The lights start, and that's when the creature comes through the ceiling, and Nancy unhesitatingly opens fire.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And again, more great reactions from Steve.
What the hell is that? And they both say, shut up.
Yes. The three of them, of course, retreat into the bedroom. Steve wants to know what it is. They wait as the creature stalks the hallway. I like this. This is very 80s horror movie. They're standing on one side of the door. They can hear it on the other side of the door.
They're waiting for the yo-yo, because when the yo-yo gets pulled, that means it is stuck in the trap.
Right.
But that doesn't happen.
That does not happen. That Yo-Mega sits right there.
Suddenly the lights fix themselves, and it seems as if the monster is gone.
So they move into the hallway. They see the trap still set and no signs of the creature. Damn it, I said to myself. Joyce and Hopper continue through the Upside Down. They're actually tracking through it, and they find what I call the alien egg.
Yes.
Very alien here. 1979 alien, I mean. They also find the remnants of Castle Byers. Joyce, of course, calls out for Will. He finds a similar stuffed animal to the one his daughter had in the hospital, and we get more unraveling of this tale of Hopper, which is him reading to his daughter, who is bald. It's not good. We see him sobbing in the stairwell. Very emotional shit right here. I mean, this sick kid stuff is hard to watch.
Yeah, it is.
We return to the present to Joyce calling out for Will. Do you want to talk about this scene?
No, I just want to say before we go back into...
Yeah.
I just want to talk about Joyce and Hopper in general, the Upside Down.
I think we should too.
I read an article where the Duffer Brothers said originally they didn't even plan to show the Upside Down at all because they did not think they could translate it to screen.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned it because I definitely wanted to talk about the Upside Down.
I love it. I like that it's the same thing.
Yes.
But darker.
Yes.
I really like that. I think it's really creative. In this where we had a lot of them walking around in the Upside Down, going to places that we know and that we're seeing in the regular world, and then also seeing in the Upside Down for this long period of time. Basically, like Joyce and Hopper just going through town. Right. We're seeing Joyce's house. Awesome. We're seeing the school. We're seeing where all our main characters are in the real world and where they are in the Upside Down. I like that.
I do too. I'm going to say one thing before I talk about it, and this is just a little Easter egg for all the gaming nerds who ever role-played in their life. Think Werewolf Apocalypse. Think Stepping Sideways into the Umbra. Look it up, bitch. Stepping Sideways into the Umbra from a role-playing game called Werewolf the Apocalypse. Anyway, I like this a lot too. I liked that it was a reflection of our world. We talked about this before, parallel universes. This is something Mr. Clark and his mustache explained to the children, and I love it too. I like that they decided to take us into the Upside Down. I like that they decided to reveal to us some of what I think is probably going to be a larger mystery as we go into another season of this show.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome stuff. I like it a lot. I like that it is a reflection of our world and it's a familiar place and it's not too crazy. And you know what I started to think about besides my geeky RPG reference? I really started to think about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I really did. Because in Nightmare on Elm Street, you have Nancy who goes to sleep and she enters this dream world that looks strangely familiar to the world that she currently inhabits. It's just more demonic. It's more odd. It's more something you would see in an imagination. I think the film with J-Lo and that ass, The Cell, does this. She goes into this serial killer's mind and it's fucking crazy. That's what I liked about this. I liked that we got to get in there. I liked that we got in and saw this stuff.
Right.
And it was cool. I liked this a lot.
In the chat, Junkfist brings up Silent Hill.
Okay, good point.
Silent Hill is actually a video game I used to play all the time when it first came out. I played it with my sister. It used to freak us out. We would write these short little scary stories about it as if it was like a real place. We were really obsessed with it.
That's the Triangle Head guys, right? Or no, that's a different game.
I don't even remember. I just remember the
pyramids
dogs.
On there.
They were evil dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was looking for his daughter. It was a guy looking for his daughter, which is similar.
Yes.
But it's very snowy and dark, and it's like the real world, but it's not. Then you have all these things. I never saw any of the movies. Supposedly they're terrible. I saw the
first one. Sean Bean's in it, I think.
Yeah, I actually see his picture because I just Googled Silent Hill because I wanted to look at pictures of it.
10 years old already.
There's something about the way that it's set up that it looks so similar to the Upside Down, the way it's a real world, but different. The snow.
Yeah, it's cool.
It definitely seems like it's inspired by that, and I love it. I just think it is so. I don't know. It's such a cool and creepy imagery, and I thought that at the time when it was a video game, and I definitely see a lot of it in the show.
Awesome. It should be noted we got a couple of LSG Media connections here. Of course, Sean Bean, as we know from Game of Thrones, and Laurie Holden as Andrea from The Walking Dead.
Really?
are both in Silent Hill. And that
Maybe
movie
I should
is
watch this stupid movie.
already 10 years old.
I'm like, maybe I should watch this stupid movie. Now I want to play the Silent Hill video game so bad.
Honestly, Silent Hill wasn't terrible. It was fun to watch. I think I remember enjoying it.
I'm looking up what it got on Rotten Tomatoes as we speak.
Probably not great. I'm going to guess 60 something.
29.
Wow. I was way off. Maybe it's not as good as I remember. All right. Anyway.
All right. Off that tangent. But if we ever watch this movie, maybe we'll podcast about it.
Yeah. So Silent Hill, Last of Us, they're saying in the chat. A lot of Firestarter, Haunted Dreams. I definitely think
Firestarter. My God, yes.
I definitely think Freddy Krueger, because here you have this monster. Well, Freddy Krueger's a little different because he gets you when you go to sleep, but he can be pulled into the real world where he loses his power, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, this thing that haunts you in another world that you get pulled into through your consciousness, which is neat. But anyway, Jonathan, Nancy, and now Steve. They make their way back to the living room. I love this stuff. I love these scenes with these kids.
Me too.
Steve just keeps saying, this is crazy, this is crazy,
He tries to call the police.
She's like, no.
I like that, though. Steve is, again, in this scene, the voice of the audience.
Right, he's being rational.
He's like, this is crazy. I'm now going to try to call the police. And Nancy's like, actually, you need to get the fuck out of here. And Steve's like, you know what? Fine. And he leaves the house. Because that is what a normal fucking person would do when two crazy people are chasing a monster.
Right. My guess is he would leave and go straight to the authorities. But he starts to leave, and from his POV in the car, we see the lights flickering in the house.
And he knows that's when the monster came last time.
Right. Inside, Jonathan and Nancy stay back to back, which I love. I like there's a lot of strobing in this.
Yes.
Which does a couple things. It adds some dramatic tension. It also helps you hide the monster a little.
Right.
The way you light a creature really is a big deal. That's something we learned a lot when we covered The Thing on the Science Fiction Film Podcast, and that's, the cinematographer, the lighting guy, and they really have to work with the creature effects guys. In this case, it's CG, but to make sure that if you want this creature to look a certain way, you got to keep certain light off of it, or it's going to be stark and glaring and not look as cool. And I think the strobing helps mask the CG deficiencies at time.
Agreed.
Well, it smashes Jonathan, and it starts to draw on him. And I emboldened this note too, because is this something? Is this something that's going to come back in later season?
Like it's got rabies?
I don't know, man. It drooled in his face. It drooled in his mouth.
Yeah, like rabies.
Yeah.
Maybe Jonathan has rabies now.
Possibly. Nancy rips a few shots at it. Jonathan has upside down AIDS now, I wrote.
Yeah, she runs out of bullets.
Yeah.
And just what I predicted last week happened.
Steve bursts in and does his best Bear Jew impersonation and gets to work on that thing with his bat, kind of like
you were going to say Negan.
Yeah, well, no.
We don't know what he did with his bat.
We don't know what Negan... The jury's still out on if Negan can use a bat or not.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Harrington might be a better bad guy as far as bat purposes.
He's certainly a more decisive one.
Yeah, he knows what's up. He's going to kill that monster. We're not going to have to wait till next season.
But I'll tell you, this is Bear Jew hallmarks here. He starts cranking this thing with his bat. He does a little Highlander flippy twirl with the bat, and Jonathan recovers as Steve distracts it with his baseball skills, and Jonathan recovers and torches the beast.
Yes, and I want to point out, too, Andrew says something in the chat. I like how this ties into what Tommy said earlier. Just run away. You always run away. And Steve starts to run away, but he comes back.
Ah, great observation. Good stuff. This is why we love the chat.
Floyd Fry also brings up signs. Speaking of killing things
Swing
with
away.
baseball bats.
Yeah, of course. I thought that, too. It screams so hard that it can actually be heard in the Upside Down.
Which I like.
Yes.
I like when they can hear each other.
They decide to extinguish the beasts, or else the whole house will catch on fire, right?
Right.
And after the smoke clears, we have some remains of this thing sizzling away on the trap, but no full body, which is bad news.
The thing is definitely hurt, though.
Yes. And we should talk about this part of it. Nancy doesn't get to kill this thing. Jonathan doesn't get to kill this thing. Of course, Elle handles that in a sacrificial moment at the end. But I'd like to believe that the work that Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan did to come together in this is what assisted Elle's destruction of the beast because it was severely weakened.
I agree. I agree that they definitely hurt the monster, 100%. I think that it was important, and I think that this is what I like, is that everything came together where everybody had to play a part for this to work, for Will to live, for the monster to die.
Right.
Everyone had to play their role.
Of course.
And they all did here. And again, like I said, last week I said that Steve was going to come in, he was going to save the day. I thought he was going to die, honestly, but he didn't. So I guess I got to deal with him for another season. But I like Steve a lot in this episode.
Yep.
Like, Steve has really grown on me. Oh, God. Ugh.
We'll talk
I don't
about
even
him
wanna
at his
say
end
that.
with his dubious reindeer sweater. We'll get to
Yeah.
that.
I
Chucklehead.
like this reindeer sweater.
He's fucking dubious at best.
I feel like somebody may have said this in our group, but I do want to point out that Steve's hair is like John Ralphio on Parks and Recreation, if anyone ever watches that.
Oh, there you go.
That's what his hair looks like. And he reminds me of him. I think somebody said like he looked like the child of John Ralphio, and they were right. So I wish I knew who said it, but it's so true.
Dustin calls the lunch lady a liar as he finds the pudding with Lucas. Mike talks to Elle, and this is where Jessica's waterworks starts.
Oh my God, you do not even know.
Mine did too in the first part. The first time I watched it, I got a little man misty, but the second time I held my ground.
Not me. I cried both fucking times.
So Mike was thinking,
I might cry just talking about it, honestly.
oh, for Christ's
I'm really
sakes,
worried.
get yourself together, will you? Mike was thinking that when this was over, that he and Elle would live with him. It all makes perfect sense. My parents will take care of you. Nancy will be your big sister, but I will not be your brother.
And she can eat whatever she wants. And he's like, real food. And she's like, Eggos. And he's like, well, yeah, but other stuff.
But other things. Mike, my parents will take care of you. He then says, Elle asks, why is this different? Why would we not be siblings? Essentially, she doesn't use that word.
Yeah,
but
she says, why won't he be like her brother?
he's like, never mind.
Friends
It's
don't lie.
stupid. And of course, Mike asks her to the snowball.
But
Watching this kid fight his way through what he's trying to express to this girl is the most adorable thing I've ever fucking seen.
I love this repeated phrase, the friends don't lie, that we hear so much, and that's what she says to him. And he's so adorable as he's trying to explain to her his feelings. And he's like, we could go to the snowball. And she's like, what's that? And he's going to explain like a dance to her. He says, you could go with your sister, but it would be weird.
It's amazing.
And he like can't explain to her what he's trying to say, and he kisses her.
It's so cute.
And I wrote, I don't know why, but this makes me cry every time.
Because there is nothing but innocence here, and it's so adorable. And Mike cares so deeply for this girl, and it's you know that this is not going to end the way you want it to end.
Especially after this.
But it is awesome. It is so endearing. These little actors are fucking so cute.
I'm like, this kid who plays Mike is so incredible, honest to God. So is Millie Bobby Brown. We've talked about her a ton. But every time I see the little pictures from the It movie, like of this kid, I'm like, I can't fucking wait.
His name is Finn. We've said this before, but his name is Finn Wolfhard. Props to that
Best name
young
ever.
man.
Props to his parents for giving him a cool name.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, I lost my place. See, this is a problem.
There's a car that arrives.
Yeah.
And he thinks that it's Nancy and Jonathan coming back, but it's not.
Right. Just comes on, blah, 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 blah. It's adorable. Okay, the bad men arrive, actually. The kids start to run, right?
Yes, they're searching for the kids, and the kids kind of can stay ahead for a little while, but they end up cornered. Dustin immediately knows Hopper sold him out.
Yep, he says Lando. The kids get hemmed in on both sides, and we get one of the most awesome things that happen in this show.
Finally, Bitchface is going to die.
Yeah, first of all, you murderer. You're dead. Kind of feel bad for these guys who are out doing this. I don't know. I could have asked Josh this. I don't think this is a real small nitpick, but I don't think the military police do things off of bases like this. Like, I don't think they would be there, but whatever. It's a nitpick. And I don't even know if that's true. I just feel like they stay on base and handle internal security. I don't think they go out like this. But anyway, this shot of Elle mind bulleting these guys and them dropping simultaneously is fucking badass. Mm-hmm. She turns to them, puts her chin down, glares, and leans forward, and then pop goes the fucking weasel. Eyes bleeding, ears bleeding, orifices bleeding, and they all drop. No contests. And maybe this is what Hopper was banking on, this moment right here.
Yeah, right.
And that's it. Elle collapses. Of course, Mike starts to try to wake her up. And then we go back to the Upside Down. Hopper and Joyce explore some more. They continue to track the beast. They reach the school, and then we go back to Brenner showing up on the scene. Elle is down. He tells them to leave her. The kids stand tall for Elle. This is also adorable. These kids are like, you're going to have to kill us.
If you want her, you have to kill us first. That's right. Eat shit, I believe were all their comments.
I think so. Let her go, you bastard. They are, of course, easily overwhelmed. Brenner says that he will take her home so no one else gets hurt. Part of me thinks that Brenner, in a weird way, actually believes this.
I don't know.
This is like the classic arrogant scientist who's like, you can't, nobody control you, only I can. I understand what's best for you kind of person, where he has a bit of, he has a little bit of a twisted morality, which makes him think he's actually protecting people.
Right.
So, yeah, the lights flicker. So
We know the monster's coming.
I am cheering at this point because I think, holy shit, they have her. They're going to get her. They're going to bring her back to the lab, and we're never going to see her again. Oh, no. Oh, no. Elle's not done yet. The creature arrives, and they just open fire on it. Again, more strobing effects. We got cool weapons play here. The kids, in this distracting moment, pick up Elle, and they haul ass.
Yeah.
And then the creature lands in front of Brenner, and we cut away.
Right.
So Brenner's fate's unknown.
Right, but you know the theory I prescribe to and always will. If I don't see a body, they are still alive.
I like your style.
And Andrew in the chat says the Duffer Brothers pretty much said he's not dead.
There you go.
So I'm glad. I want more Brenner. He's evil, and I need to know more about him.
What's funny about that is I wonder why. I wonder if it not killing Brenner in that moment, or if he gets away, or if it simply runs past him in pursuit of Elle, or whatever it's going to do. I wonder if there's some deeper story elements there that we don't know about in Brenner's relationship with this thing.
Yeah. He was the one who wanted Elle to go find it.
Could be interesting. Joyce and Hopper continue to track the beast through the upside-down halls. They find some trapped prey. This is very Aliens. They find Will with an alien tentacle in
They also
his
see
mouth.
dead Barb again, right?
I think that's who that is. They rip it out, and Hopper opens fire.
That
on
whatever
the
thing was
that
in
little
his throat.
that throat dick thing is dead. They shoot that to pieces. Back at the school, the kids manage to get Elle into a classroom. They put her on a table.
Mike tells her that the bad man is gone and they're going to be home soon.
Hold on. Yep.
She's going to have a bed. She's going to eat all the Egos she wants. And he says, we can go to the snowball.
Ugh, brutal.
And Elle says, promise. And I start crying again.
My promises. The creature
Oh my
finishes
God.
off the last of the bad men. It smashes down the door and enters the classroom. In the chat, somebody said it would have been cool if it was acting more injured, like in its movements.
That's true.
Lucas fires some wrist rocket shots at it. Dude, Lucas is standing tall here.
This is like it so much. I mean,
Oh, yeah. He stands up. He's tall. He pulls out his, he starts banging rocks. They're loading, they're handing him the rocks. He's ripping rocks at it. Of course, it's not going to do anything, but I admire their spirit. Lucas.
and then one does do something.
Yeah.
Except not really.
Except not really. Coincidentally, Elle bashes the creature across the room with her powers. Mike tries to intervene because he knows the consequences are coming.
And she throws him away. She's like, no, I have to do
Can I
this.
say something about this scene? You know what I did not expect here? For some reason, not until this moment did I think to myself, the whole series, the creators have been showing us that Elle gets drained by her powers.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this moment, I had this realization, 8 episodes in, she's going to use all her powers and kill herself to kill this thing. But it took me this long to come to that conclusion. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was wrapped up in the moment. I don't know if it's because it never occurred to me that she would do such a thing. But when she pushed this thing across the room, I thought to myself, oh my God, she's going to use
Sacrifice
powers
herself.
to where it kills her and it kills this thing at the same time. Why didn't I see this coming?
Yeah, I mean, maybe because we didn't want Elle to die. Although she's probably not dead. But
It's
still.
possible. Yeah, we got the ghost of Christmas Elle. We'll talk about it.
She looks back at her friends and she
Yep.
says, goodbye, Mike.
That's when you know it's over.
And then she says, no more. And I'm almost crying talking about it, to be honest with you. Again, this is really tough for me.
The way Finn Wolfhard here is amazing. When he's sitting down up against the cabinet with his arms just sort of up and helpless, and the tear coming down his face, it's such a little kid, like, I can't even handle this right now moment. That was great by this kid. And it really makes you feel the weight of the dramatic tension here unfolding before your eyes. And it could have, I'm telling you, man, bad actors ruin this shit. Bad actors fuck this up.
And there's something what touches me, that the conversations between Mike and Elle are so wonderful. When she looks at the monster and she says, no more. Like, she's had
Yeah.
enough.
Oh, yeah.
She's been weaponized. She's felt this guilt over what this monster is doing, that it's partially her fault. And she's done. And it's very, I don't know, it's like a very powerful thing. Like, she's, like Joyce said, like, you are a brave little girl.
Yep.
And she really, really is.
Yep. And we need to give Elle her props here.
This actress is incredible.
This whole arc for Elle has been amazing. We talked about how she was a confused little girl who only knew the depravity that she was facing at the Hawkins lab. We know that this little girl was utilized in a way that she did not want to be utilized by men who maybe thought they were trying to do the right thing, and like most arrogant men who think they have the answers to things they don't understand, They fuck up. They hurt this little girl. This little girl creates this gateway into this upside down world, and this monster is unleashed upon Hawkins. Now, no matter who you are, when you're 11 years old or whatever she is, you're going to feel guilt about that, even though it's not your fault. And there's no way for her to overcome that. Then she meets these kids. She learns about kindness and friendship, and she learns about all of these things that are foreign to her. She learns about what it's like to be pretty. And then she realizes that she can be pretty by herself, which is important to a little kid. She doesn't need Nancy's wig and dress. She is who she is, and it's beautiful that which she is. And then she decides that she's not going to use the powers not on her own terms, that she's going to use them on her terms. And by taking the power back, as Jessica just said succinctly, as I blather, is that she makes a decision to use her powers in a way that, in her opinion, is good because she knows who the, quote, bad men are, the bad men who have unleashed this upon the world. And in this final moment, she decides that she will end it all now. She will close the fucking book on this bullshit that Brenner started with her. She will go out on her own terms. She will be heroic, which is exactly what she is. She understands everything about friendship and sacrifice and not lying and being honest up until the end here. And she exerts all of her power. The scream is so badass and tragic and sad, and it echoes. It's powerful. And boof, they all go up in this sort of ether dust, this upside down dust. Mm-hmm. And that is the end of the creature, and that is presumably the end of Elle.
Presumably.
Amazing.
And of both.
Amazing character arc for this little girl, this character Elle. Mm-hmm. She blows that fucker up. Mike rushes to the chalkboard and looks for her. This is painful.
They're calling out for her, all three of them.
Painful. And then we cut right over, because now we have the audience in our grip, say the showrunners. We have them deeply invested in these characters, deeply invested in what's going to happen next. We know this is episode 8. We know it's ending. We've got them. We just blew up Elle. We made them cry. We're not going to stop here. We're going to turn it up.
You're going to keep crying, motherfuckers.
We're going to turn it up to 11, and we're going to go right into Hopper starting CPR on Will. And might I add, you can only simulate CPR so well because you can't break, sternums.
Yeah.
But he knows the 30 compressions to 2 blows. That's the way it's done now, at least as of 2016.
Well, this was 1983.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. They didn't do it that way back in the day. That's a really good point. This is, of course, cut against Hopper's tragedy, which is real hard to watch.
Yeah, it is.
You don't need to know this little girl, and you don't need to know anything other than when you see a bald little girl receiving chest compressions and dying as her BP drops, you're going to cry. I don't care who the fuck you are. That's just hard to watch.
Especially intercut with...
Right. Intercut with...
Joyce telling Will how much she loves him.
Sure. You're right. You going to get through this podcast?
I don't know.
Jesus Christ. Pull it together, Vizina. I called you by your last name, to try to snap you into combat mode. Pull it together, Vizina.
It was just God damn it. Oh, God. It was so sad.
You maggot. You got this. Have another swig. There you go. You're going to be fine. Yes, Joyce reminding Will how much she loves him, and it should not be doubted at all based on the way she's acted for 8 episodes. We know she loves her boy. We know that Joyce's life is in shambles, and this will be a breaking point if Will does not survive. If Will does not survive, we lose Joyce here too, I think. And I think that this is awesome because Joyce's love for her son, in addition to Hopper's determination to save a child where he could not save one before, to be utterly helpless in his own daughter Sarah's death,
right? To
have to watch as these medical experts try to keep her alive and just can't. Unfortunately, they were unable to. Now he has a direct hand in, on some level, getting something back. You can never replace the loss of your own child, of course, right? But you do get you do get Hopper getting something back here. So we have Joyce coaching her son through the upside down to return to them in a sense, to come back from the brink, as it were. We have Hopper doing what he's going to do, keeping it together, staying calm, having a very cool demeanor here despite the chaos that is erupting. And then, of course, Will breathes life. He sits up. We get a wrap of Mike and his mom. The emergency team's responding. Breathe, breathe. Will comes to, and boom. We go right to the emergency personnel arriving. We have Karen Wheeler showing up. It was very emotional just when Mike cried on his mom's shoulder because the only thing the kid wants at this point is his fucking mom. He's a kid. His friend just died.
Of course.
And we fade to black, but it's not over.
Nope.
So we open in the hospital. Jonathan and Joyce are there when he wakes up. Where am I? The boy wonders. The boy Will. He's a cutie pie too, this kid.
It's cute.
A wonderful reunion. Will asks Jonathan if he is okay, which talks to you about Will. We know a lot about Will, even though we didn't get to see a lot of Will. Will wanted his friend's opinions on what he should do. Should he use a fireball and try to protect everyone or protect himself? He elected to try to protect everybody. And this sentiment for this little boy, this unselfish little boy, who learned a lot from his mom and his brother, who are both awesome people, is also like them, an awesome little kid. Because the first thing he wants to know, besides, where the fuck am I, is, are you okay?
Yes.
My brother's hand is hurt. What's going on? Not even considering his own injuries at this point, his own experience.
Right. It's so sweet to see them all interact with each other again, and Jonathan crying and just so happy to have his brother back. It's very, very sweet.
Yes, and this comes back in the end. Will's unselfish behavior continues when he elects to, despite everything that happened, and this is what I mean. We learn a lot about Will Byers. We've seen the family he comes from, and we see what Will is like, and that's he makes a decision that he's going to use the fireball again, despite the fact that he could simply protect himself. He says, you know what? Fuck it. Roll the dice. I'm going to try it again, and that's it, despite everything that happened after that fact. And that's what's so awesome about this kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, he gets a box of shit. I'm sure there's some D&D handbooks in there.
For sure. New mixtape.
A new mixtape from his brother Jonathan. And then, of course, we pan across the other people in the waiting room, and predictably the camera settles on Mike. It goes past...
So sad still.
It goes past Lucas and Dustin, who are nodding off, and it sort of rotates. It keeps them in the shot, but we really focus on Mike here, who is upset, whose friend Elle is gone. But we don't want to linger too much on this. But we do want to remind the kid that he's going through this weird, bittersweet thing, right? As we said at the top of this. And the kid wakes up. Jonathan gives him a cue. Come on. And he's like, guys, wake up. God, he's freaking out. And this is probably one of my favorite parts of this show, is the kids being reunited again.
Cannot contain themselves.
It is amazing. It is amazing.
They're talking over each other, trying to tell him everything that's happened.
Right.
And Will has this coughing fit, and he says, it got me, the Demogorgon. And they're like, we know.
Right.
We know.
Awesome.
And they tell him about Elle.
What do you think about this part where he coughs and says, it got me? It's a bit of foreshadowing here, no?
I think so. I think that there's a lot more to what happened to Will and how it's going to continue to affect him. And I think he tries to hide it later, but in this moment, where he's just waking up and just seeing his friends.
Totally honest.
Yes.
Wow. Maybe. We'll see. We'll talk about that very ending scene in the bathroom. But, they say we had a new friend, but she's gone. She has all these powers. And
she was like Yoda.
Yep. The voices start to trail off as we settle on Nancy, and she exits the room. Because, you know what? Nancy's has a tough go here.
Yes.
And
I think this is very well done.
Yeah, this is tough for Nancy because, of course, she's happy that Will Byers is alive, but she's not happy Barbara is not. Part of me wonders how she reconciles this. Does she feel like a failure a little bit?
She that's the thing, is she can't, and this is why she's not with Jonathan. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Her and Jonathan went into this thing together so they could save Barb and they could save Will. And they were a team, and they were going to bring their people back.
Right.
And Jonathan got his happy ending, and Nancy not like that. I just walked into it. You did not get that.
Pull out your mule, Jonathan. It's the least I could do.
He did not get that.
Could you not use your bandaged hand?
Anyway.
Yeah, sorry. I brought it there.
He got his brother back, but Nancy did not get her friend back.
Right.
Their mission only worked for one of them.
And this is an important thing to note in their division.
Yes. And it's not like she can be mad at Jonathan, but it's one of those things where it's like, how can she ever look at him and see that he's happy with his brother and he reached his goal, but she didn't reach hers.
A constant reminder, right?
Right. And that's what I feel like we're starting to hint at here. And I feel like that is what ultimately brings us into where their relationship is a month later.
Which I think is perfectly realistic, to be honest with you.
Yep, and you know that I called that was what was going to happen as well when we were watching the episode for the first time.
I know you did. Wipe your tears and high-five yourself because you're doing well now.
That's right.
You've reined it back in. We got you under control.
I love that people in the chat are just like in love with Barb. Oh my God. I like
Scott Warboy Cummings wants to plow her.
I know.
No question.
I'm telling you, like, and I read like online that there's like this like huge cult of like Barb fans, and people are like obsessed with Barb.
Yeah.
And I think that's crazy. And I feel like if the Duffer Brothers realized that Barb was going to be such a big deal, that they may not have killed her so fast.
It's funny. So Hopper exits the hospital, and a nondescript car pulls up. Next to him, a man opens a back door to the car, and Hopper reluctantly sort of gets in. This was very X-Files to
Hopper
me.
made a deal with the devil.
He sure did. And this is a very, very much an X-Files type of thing to me. Get in, Mulder. We know about the tapes.
Yeah.
And then we move to 1 month later. The kids are playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Just like how we started the show.
Oh, God.
I love the bookends. I love see bookends. That really gets me going. I just think it's perfect.
Right. We almost end it where we started it, in this basement, but we do go to the buyer's residence.
You have to see some other things,
Right.
but I like that we at least...
We talk Thessal Hydra. It comes down to Will's action again, and he decides to do the fireball rather than using a protection spell on himself. Again, he does the same thing. He is morally consistent.
This time it works, though. Last time it didn't.
Yes. It's a success. Mike acts out very dramatically. The death of the creature. The kids cheer.
Such a good actor.
This is awesome. King Tristan thanks them for his bravery, and the kids are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's got to be more. I mean, come on, dude. A marital ceremony? What we got? You got more. But Jonathan breaks in to pick Will up.
This is important that they're like, that's it? Like, what about this? What about that? Like, why isn't there more? And they're like, we played for 10 hours. And it's like, yeah, but there needs to be more. And this is why there needs to be more, is because they actually did this in real life.
It's a great point.
The game probably doesn't have that same feeling that it used to have.
You watch yourself.
Why?
You watch yourself and talking about Dungeons and Dragons, okay?
No, but do you know what I mean?
No, of course.
Like
I know
they
exactly
did this in real life, and so now they play a 10-hour game, but it's not like when they used to play a 10-hour game, because they actually fought a Demogorgon in real life.
It also might be a little tongue-in-cheek saying, like, what else is going to happen in Stranger Things? And I think I think this TV show does a lot of meta things like that. Like, hey, we're going to bring back Winona Ryder for an 80s thing. Hey, there's a lot of meta stuff that happen in it, and this could be that too.
Yeah, sure.
I think it could also be like, hey, what else is going on in this story, dude? Is this really the end? Are we about to roll credits here?
Yeah, no, you're right. That makes sense, I guess.
But it could be also part of the...
I think maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, although they're definitely pretty excited about that game. Mike's a good DM. Anyway, Jonathan shows up to pick up Will. Dustin and Lucas goof off. Mike looks back at the fort he built for Elle, which is still standing in her honor.
Oh my God, my heart.
Awesome. Nancy gives Jonathan a present before he leaves. It is not a happy ending.
And now this I like the way this is done, because we see like Jonathan interact with Karen. You see them head out, and Nancy's like, Jonathan, wait. And at first you're like, oh my God, she's going to go give him a smooch and be like, hey, honey, you coming over later? But I'm telling you, the second she walked down those stairs, I turned to Dean and I said, she is with Steve.
Yep.
And they went through the whole scene where they got the present. I said, she's going to walk back in the house and we're going to pan over to her sitting with Steve. And that's exactly what happened.
In a dubious reindeer sweater.
Because this, to me, makes sense.
Absolutely.
Because just like I said, there is now this disconnect where Jonathan reached his goal and Nancy did not reach hers.
Mm-hmm.
It's
also realistic because Steve, she's not going to simply walk away from Steve, because Steve has shown that he has depth and dimension. And you're in high school, and it's going to be hard to overcome this thing you just went through. And this thing that you've been saying, I think, Jessica, is so important. And I think it's easy to miss, and there's a divide here. You know, we've heard about things where, I don't want to go off on a tangent on this, but the death of a child splits up parents.
Yes.
Shit like this happens where, these two people went through this thing, and Jonathan, like you said, got what he wanted, and she didn't. Of course, she's not a monster. She's happy for Jonathan. She's happy that Will is back and that her brother's best friend is back. But there's still this lingering dark feeling in her
that she can't move past.
Therefore, she can't really move forward with this thing with Jonathan. And Steve hasn't given her overly amazing reasons to do that, because he's simply acted as an irrational high school kid would act. But he's also shown depth and that he cares, and he's willing to risk his life to go back into the house for them, to fight the monster.
Agreed.
And that's awesome. And that makes Steve a well-rounded character, and predictably so. And the thing the thing the show has been trying to show us is that Nancy's going to grow away from Steve.
Yes.
If Steve doesn't grow the fuck up. But Steve does. He has a rift with Tommy. He moves past his friends. He cleans off the slut graffiti. He starts to grow with Nancy, because Nancy's leaving you in the dust, dude. And that, I think, is realistic.
I agree. I think if Barb lives, I think she might be with Jonathan, though.
Yeah.
I really think that there's something to that.
Yeah.
So much so. Like when you lose something, when you go through things, sometimes it's hard to move past that. And Steve was the cute guy in high school she's always had a crush on. It's easy. It's easy for her to stay with Steve.
Right.
That's easy.
That's a really good point. It's easy for her to stay with Steve. Why does she want to go?
It's much more difficult to go the other way.
Right, especially when she still cares for Steve, and Steve still obviously cares for her.
But she also cares for Jonathan. I think they do a great job of showing that.
100% she cares for Jonathan.
And honestly, if we're only getting season 1 of the show, I don't think we end with Nancy and Steve together.
I concur.
I think a lot of this stuff is...
I concur.
We might not get anything official about who she's with or who she's not with, but we don't get a definitive Nancy and Steve are boyfriend, girlfriend if this is going to be the last episode of this show.
Right. Concur.
I love his sweater. It's really awesome.
I like how Will does such a little kid thing. He's like, "Can I open your present?"
Yes. The present is a camera. Mm-hmm. Very thoughtful.
Yep. Pretty cool. They both agree.
And I like that when we get the reveal that she's with Steve, and Steve says, "Did you give it to him?"
Yeah.
And she says, "Yeah." And he smiles.
You know what I like about that too? That's her being honest with him about, I have to give him this thing. It does not threaten our relationship. She doesn't do it behind his back.
I don't even think it's so much that too. I think that there's maybe Steve even suggested it.
Maybe, okay.
Like maybe he feels guilt. Like he said, he wanted to come to the house and talk things out with Jonathan and apologize before all the shit with the monster.
Right.
And maybe he was like, you know what? I did this shitty stuff to him. I said this awful things. I'm not that person anymore. And there's almost a part of me that wonders, like, did Steve say, like, we should get him and we should replace his camera? I should do that.
Yeah.
He's your friend, Nancy, so you should give it to him. But I think that's something that, you know what I mean?
That's a really good observation. I like it.
That's just whatever. And
She says yes, of course. Hopper goes outside with a bunch of food. All junk food, by the way. We should know.
Can I say one more thing about just Steve Harrington?
Oh, as much as you want.
Okay. So after I watched this last episode, I read a lot of interviews with the Duffer Brothers, and I read about Steve. And they said that Steve was originally flat-out one-dimensional douchebag. And they said if you read their original first script, like, Steve is a wicked asshole, like, with no redeeming qualities at all.
Yeah, that's
and then this actor,
Joe Keery,
they liked him so much, and he portrayed things in a way that made him, like, you could see that there was, like, sweetness beyond the douche, that they totally gave him this character arc because of it.
Sweetness beyond the douche.
Yeah. So this was one of those cases where an actor, it helps his role to grow, I guess.
There's another great representation of that in Battlestar Galactica Reimagined. The Chief Tyrrell character was not going to be as huge as a character as he was, but Aaron Douglas knocked it out of the park. And
I remember that.
They gave him a lot more to work with. Good stuff. Well done by that young man.
So Hopper's at the party at the police station. He's just taking some food to go. I
like how Hopper still has his dark attitude. He's smoking indoors. He's like
making jokes about people's wives.
Right. And he collects a bunch of junk food in a Tupperware, which is lovely.
Yep, he's got to go.
Did you ever have Tupperware? Did your parents ever have Tupperware parties?
No,
that was a thing back in the day.
I know.
Yeah. So he's going to feed the ghost of Christmas L? I don't know.
He leaves some Eggos, so...
Yeah, he brought Eggos.
Eggos.
Right. And, of course, we end on the Byers having Christmas Eve dinner.
They're adorable and a happy little family, except
after talking about Atari, he barfs out a fucking throat slug. Gross.
Mm-hmm. And he's keeping the secret. He's
we get
not
a quick
telling
flash
his
to the
family.
Upside Down, and I believe we're supposed to believe he perceives it.
Yes.
Okay, so this is important, because what's he, the new L next season? I don't know.
I don't necessarily think so, but I think that he might be in trouble. Like, I think he might be really sick. And he's keeping it very secretive.
Yeah. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. He coughs up the slug and it goes down the drain, and that could be the last remnants of it, but I don't know.
I don't think so.
Flash to the Upside Down has me convinced that there's more to this kind of infection, which makes me wonder about Jonathan, because he got goo in his mouth.
Yeah, I think Will's not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
I really, really think that he's not out of the woods.
Well, he talks to his family about D&D, and we close out. Boom. That's the goddamn series.
The end.
Episode 8.
The season
is over. The season is over.
People in the chat were talking about, like, Hopper, what happened when he got in the car. Junkfist says he's an inside man now, and I agree with that Hopper is now working for the lab in a certain way because he has no choice.
Yeah, I'm sensing like an X-Files type of situation. We're on the down low. He's doing things. He's reporting any strange happenings. I think
I don't think he's telling them about Elle, though.
Let's talk about all this upside down stuff in our final thoughts. Why don't you queue up some listener comments?
I will, but first I want to read what Junkfist just wrote in the chat. Will's arc was to go from telling the truth about rolling a 7 against a Demogorgon to knowing that you should just lie when you do things like throw up slugs and shift dimensions. Otherwise, you get in trouble. That is correct. Okay, I have listener comments. We don't have a ton, but they're all really good, so I'm going to read them all.
Go for it.
Okay. Lauren Baker says, I love this series so much more than I had expected to heading in. I decided I didn't like Stephen King, and so didn't hold much nostalgia for the era the show seemed to evoke. It wasn't until I had listened to half your first episode of the Hawkins Report and was so intrigued that I stopped the podcast and watched the first episode. I was so wrong about everything. I was hooked. The show, although dealing with dark elements, was overwhelmingly good-natured and well-paced. When we finished the final episode, I asked my husband if he wanted to watch anything else. The response was, nothing will be as good as that ever.
Pause right there. Netflix, you can send the check to P.O. Box 70354, North Dartmouth, Massachusetts, 02747 for directing people to the show. Thank you.
Lauren says that she also wonders if that's the way he's going to feel after the second season. I'm just going to sit and wait patiently and attempt to keep my expectations in check. I am revisiting that don't like Stephen King thing. I have a feeling I might be wrong on that as well. Also, I've eaten an excessive number of waffles inspired by Elle's Eggo-heavy diet. It has not resulted in the life figure of a 12-year-old. That's a great comment. I feel like I don't know if I've read any Lauren Barker comments before.
No, it was fucking perfect.
Yes.
That was great. Thank you very much for chiming in, Lauren. That was well thought out.
Brian Campbell says, this series was emblematic of the golden age of Netflix. Just great storytelling that was given a chance to breathe by a network that doesn't have the same type of revenue structure that can often get in the way of a story that has a beginning, middle, and end. Yes, I know there's a season 2 coming, but I'd be satisfied without it. Here's to more artists, the stories that are waiting to burst forth, and the mediums that allow that to happen. This is the part where you lift your glass and take a long drink.
All right, here, Brian.
Cheers. Next one.
Delicious. Brian, can I just say something about Brian real quick? Brian.
Sure.
I think that is brilliant. We have talked a lot in this house about Netflix and how they are doing something that the studios better fucking check themselves.
Take notice of.
Before they wreck themselves. And that's they're staying out of artists' ways. And because of that, they are getting incredible results. Because at the end of the day, your stuff is either good or it isn't. And the people who are going to make it good are the people who created it, not the goddamn networks. Just be a vehicle to distribute and do that, and it will be fine. And people will figure it out. Stranger Things blew up because of word of mouth. And that's what happened. Everybody said, you got to watch this. You got to listen to it. You got to watch it. It's amazing, blah, 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 blah. And that's what happened. And I concur wholeheartedly with Mr. Campbell when he says, here's to more artists, the stories that are waiting to burst forth, and the mediums that allow that to happen. That is awesome and well put, Mr. Campbell. Thank you very much, good sir.
Floyd Fry says, what's the line between homage and ripoff? Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I do know when creating an homage, you risk coming off like a ripoff, a cover band of sorts. And while that can be fun and enjoyable, it's also usually hollow and forgettable. Stranger Things doesn't suffer from this, and that is what makes it so enduring, lovable, and engaging on a deeper level. Not only does it borrow from great source material, but it also created an original world with relatable, realistic, likable characters. And that's the key, creating a world and original characters that we can root for.
That's a really good post by Floyd. I highlighted this part of it. A cover band of sorts, and while that can be fun and enjoyable, it's also usually hollow and forgettable. Cover bands are direct facsimiles of the work that they cover. And I do like your question that you pose, where's the line between homage and ripoff? And there's a lot of thought about that. And here's what happens. Most of the time, homage, whenever you do homage, you're usually not going to be as good as the source material. And I dare challenge people to tell me that this is not as good as the source material and better than a lot of the things it homages. I personally think E.T.'s fucking overrated. I said it. Now, there's a lot that's drawn from this, and you have 8 hours to work in. 8 fucking hours? That's a lot of time.
So did the original version of Stephen King's It, and look how that turned out.
Yeah, right. There are a lot of nods to the source material, but I also think that homage does not make something good. And here's what I mean. If you pluck somebody out of time and they've never seen an 80s thing ever, and you have them sit down and watch this, they might like it just because it is what it is. There are some homages that if you pluck somebody out of time and have them watch it, it's dog shit, even though it's an homage. So I think at the end of the day, it has to be good or it's just not going to work. You can homage things, you can give nods, you can give Easter eggs, but if your thing doesn't suck, I don't give a fuck. I do not, you guys know I'm not a huge comic book movie fan. There's some that I like, but I don't care enough to sit to the fucking end and see the Easter eggs because I don't care enough. And that's me. I'm not saying that's bad cinema. I'm just saying that for something has to be more than an homage to be successful. It has to be good. It has to be compelling. There are plenty of people who didn't give a shit about Stranger Things or who didn't give a shit about Tangerine Dream, who didn't give a shit about Survive, the people responsible for the music in this show, and all of a sudden people are talking about it. Now, that's been something that's been coming. We've seen it in It Follows. We've seen it in some of these throwback horror movies that use synth soundtracks. We've seen this sort of on the horizon. So Stranger Things didn't reinvent this idea. But I guess what I'm trying to say in a very long-winded fashion, this is essentially my final thought, is that it has to be good for it to work. It doesn't simply survive being an homage.
Yeah, for sure.
Continue, Jessica. Good stuff by Floyd, as usual.
Jamie Loma says, my blog post will be up tomorrow, but here are a few thoughts on the season as a whole. I really love the cast. The kids were perfect. Winona Ryder was a great choice for her role, even if the character was a bit too one-note for most of the season as a 24/7 rating lunatic. The ending was, I think, the weakest part of the season. I'm glad Elle didn't die like I predicted, but Hopper's betrayal of her was terrible, unnecessary, and tainted his entire character for me. That really sucked.
Hopefully our perspective is something he didn't think of, and maybe he'll change his mind on that.
Maybe he will, maybe he won't. All in all, this was a very beautiful and nostalgic show that sometimes showed it was trying too hard to be nostalgic, and the ending was a bit of a letdown. But I'm really excited to see what happens next season.
There you go. Jamie, less high on the end, but liked it overall.
High on season 2.
What else do we got?
That's all.
All right, cool.
Winona Forever, says Andrea Ramos.
Perfect. I concur. Jessica, I kind of did my final thoughts, so why don't you wrap on what you want to say, and we will get out of here.
I've said this before on this podcast, and I feel like it sounds so stupid when I say it, but I don't know how else to describe how I feel about this television show other than that it's very special. There's nothing else like it, and season 2 may be good, but season 2 will never be this. This is like magic. You cannot repeat this. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't. There's something for everybody. It's scary, it's funny, it's sad, it's heartwarming, it's
innocent.
It is. It's innocent, and there's just nothing else like it. They captured something beautiful that they're never going to be able to redo. And I have high hopes for season 2 that it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch and fun to talk about. But what they did in these 8 episodes, they will never be able to do again. And I miss it already. It was such a great experience watching it, honestly.
What are your thoughts overall on the nostalgia? Because obviously how much nostalgia do you think you personally felt in this? And how much of it do you think colored your idea of how good this show actually is?
I don't know. It's hard. And that is hard because I love 80s movies and I love Stephen King. And there's so much, nodded to from those two things in this, which maybe does color my perspective a little bit, but I don't think it's that is what made the show what it is for me. It really is these characters that they created and their relationships with each other. And that is what about this show was so beautiful to watch.
Right. Yeah.
It was these people. And like I said, it feels to me like I read a book and I'm like, what are these characters doing now? I miss them. Yeah. And I don't typically feel this way when I watch a television show or even a movie. I really don't. But it's the way I feel when I read a really, really good book. And That's how this show feels to me. It's like a book, but a TV show.
Right. Yeah, I like. I am curious about a season 2. I don't think it's necessary, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to watch it. I would imagine that these guys had to consider when they were writing this story that they were like, okay, we're going to make a perfect fucking show, and we know if Netflix is pushing it that a season 2 is a distinct possibility. They have to be prepared for that contingent. So I have faith in these guys until they show me otherwise.
Right.
I think that this was something special. It was beginning, middle, and end that was perfectly lined up, as Brian said. And I'm not sure where it's going to go from here, but I have faith that these guys can do something good. I am not going to be overly disappointed if it's not as good because I think I'm coming to expect that a little bit based on the success of this one. And we do have that odd situation where Stranger Things really can't go forever because you have this thing where the main cast is kids and they're going to start growing up like Carl Grimes. And it's going to change the dynamic of the show, I think.
Yes.
Right?
The Duffer Brothers said that if they continue to do seasons on it, they look at it almost like Harry Potter and how the actors and the characters kind of grew together. And that's kind of how they'd have to do it. You don't forget the Carl problem. Let's talk about Walt on The Walking Dead. Like, they have to write him out of the show because he grew up too fast.
Right. It's a good point.
But anyways, that's what they said, is that they see if it goes forward that they want to, because I've read people saying that they're like, well, maybe they should just do a time jump and do this, do that. But I like the idea of growing with the characters, like the actors growing with the characters.
Yeah, it could become very powerful storytelling if you're going through these kids growing up. There's a lot of stuff you could do there. But remember, so much of the appeal of the show is the mystery of what was going on and the unraveling of that mystery into a conclusion. Now the mystery is kind of unraveled, or maybe not. Maybe we've just scratched the surface of part of the mystery, and there's a much deeper mystery to be had.
Right.
I guess we'll find out. All right. Anything else you want to say to these good people before we bid them adieu? I guess we should probably talk about a couple things.
I'm just so sad it's over.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, remember, guys, head over to libertystreetgeek.net. That's libertystreetgeek.net, where we have our lineup of all of our shows. We have a True Detective podcast, at least for now, that we covered season 2 on. We might be closing that feed since nobody's listening to it, rightfully so. We also have a Walking Dead show, a science fiction film podcast, a Game of Thrones show, an X-Files show, and of course, as you know, this show. Jessica and I have talked at length about this, and although we're not sure how much crossover we're going to get from you guys on Netflix, but if you have HBO, if you like this kind of stuff, Westworld looks tremendous, and we definitely think we're looking at covering that. So stay tuned for that. We do have a mailing list option on our website in the bottom right corner that is helpful if you want to know when we launch something, because we will email you versus always having to check the website. But we do have social media outlets where we communicate with people as well. But if you don't have social media, you're not going to know anything about what's going on with LSG Media unless you go to libertystreetgeek.net. So make it a habit to go in once in a while and check the schedule, see what we got lined up and what's coming, and jump in on our other shows. It's been a blast talking to you guys for sure. But we are definitely considering Westworld because it looks too good to pass up on. Plus, it's right in our science fiction wheelhouse. So look for that podcast to most likely be coming, barring any scheduling hijinks that could pop up. Lastly, thank you to everyone who listened to us, who downloaded us, who reviewed us. I know I said this at the top, but it's worth saying again. You guys make the show fun. You make it worth it. It's encouraging to know that people are out there listening, helping us climb the charts, and giving us a lot of boosts to all of our other shows as well. We wouldn't do it if you guys weren't there to continue to support us, and we appreciate the fact that you do, and we are grateful to all of the time that you devote to LSG Media and its podcasts, and we are grateful to all of the interaction that we get from our listeners.
Yeah, we are.
Jessica, tell these good people good night.
Good night, good people.